Hello, and thank you for supporting us for 100 great episodes here at the Navy Blue Corner. To celebrate, here is our interview with the one and only Anthony Koutoufides. He's a childhood hero of ours, a former captain of this great club, and someone whose athleticism changed the game that we know today. As a member of our last premiership winning team, his knowledge of the game and of the Carlton Football Club is invaluable to fans like us. We hope you enjoy.
It's an honour to welcome one of the most esteemed members of the Carlton family to the show. His brilliant football resume includes multiple All-Australian selections, Carlton Best and Fairest, an AFLPA MVP award, and of course a premiership medal. There's no doubt that his name is synonymous with the Carlton Football Club. He's an AFL Hall of Famer and a fan favourite to the day. So welcome to the show, Anthony Koutoufides.
Thanks very much, boys. I appreciate it. Great to be on here.
No, we appreciate you taking the time, mate. We've been looking forward to this for ages. So, it's great to have you here. How's life been treating? What's been keeping you busy so far this year?
Life is good. I mean, I've been doing Koutoufides for a little while, and just some group training, which has been great. I mean, obviously we got hit a little bit with COVID. We combined that with a bit of nutrition from the Herbalife products, and I've been doing it for many years now. It's been exciting for me because when I finished football, I'll be honest, I was a little bit lost in life for a good 3 years. You come out of that football cocoon and all of a sudden you're out in the real world, and I never was one to have that opportunity to get back into footy, although I put up my hand for whatever reason. I don't know, all the doors were closed, so it's a little bit like, mate, how'd you get after all those years and go and find yourself and find something that you really want to do again? And I'm just, not competitive. I just want to do something where I can improve daily. And so I found this business, which has been great. I started it part-time, now it's full-time. I work from home, and it's just a great lifestyle business. So it's been great.
No, great to hear you're doing well, and love the Koutoufides stuff. Look, you basically played every position on the ground, down, back, up, forward, in the midfield, even in the ruck. How hard was it, I guess, from a developmental point of view, to find your footing in the league and in the team itself, being thrown around in every kind of position? Was it hard to get consistency, I guess, early on? And did you enjoy playing every single position?
It's a great question. It was very difficult. I mean, as a junior, I was a ruckman and occasionally swap at centre forward to play there. So, having that athletic background, no matter even if there was guys a little bit taller than me, I had quite a good spring. So I went into, at the age of 14, I got a letter from the Carlton Football Club to try out in their junior development squad. And I played that for 2 years. It was just a carnival during school holidays against all the other AFL teams. So before the TAC Cup and all that came in, the under-18 competition, we had under-15 development squad and we had the under-19s at Carlton. So I played a full back there, but once I went to Till Cup, I was like in the ruck and then centre half back, and I made the All-Australian team at centre half back. But when I got to Carlton, it was a bit like, okay, where do we play him? You can run and jump and do all these sort of things. So I started playing here, there, and everywhere. Then in 1992, they played me a full back in the reserves, and I was able to win a reserves best and fairest from full back. But obviously, once I started playing seniors, they could see that I could play up forward, up defence. And I struggled early on. I think I love David Parkin, but probably had a play that he was unaware of how to coach and maybe, teach me and instill into me what exactly he wanted from me. And if I had have known, I probably would have started playing senior footy a lot earlier than what I did. And then it wasn't until halfway through 1994 that he played me on the wing. And once he played me on the wing, I never looked back from that moment. So it was 3.5 years of really emotional roller coaster for me. It was really difficult, but in saying that too, it probably made me the player that I was. And in the reserves, I started playing in every sort of different position, on the ground, and they could see that I could play anywhere. So wherever they needed me, I could play. And I look back sometimes in my career, and I get compared a lot, but I sometimes think it would have been wonderful to have just played in the midfield my entire career, where I felt like I played my best footy. But it wasn't a beef. They needed me up full forward. If Sticks wasn't in one game, I remember they going, like, you're up full forward this week. And then in defence at certain times in the game, or actually into the midfield at certain times as well. But it made me different to every other player.
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much answered my question, but I'll ask again. So was your favourite one to play midfield if you had to choose out of all of them?
Yeah, although they, classify wing as being midfield, you're still on one side of the ground. And at times during the game, you'd be like, okay, the ball's been on the other side for a good 10 minutes. I wonder when it's going to come on this side. But yeah, I always wanted to play in the midfield. I never had great endurance, so that probably was a little bit of a hindrance where the club probably thought, mate, this guy wouldn't be able to play in the midfield all day. But I could. I had that little bit of a speed, a little bit of a rest. I can then, go again. So I didn't have that ability to just consistently run all day, but I had that ability to have that power and speed when needed.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, look, it was an interesting one with that sort of playing group in 1993, have the grand final loss in 94, finish second on the ladder, fortunately have the straight sets finals exit, go on to obviously win it in 95. I guess what was maybe the difference in that year that allowed that sort of Carlton group to finally get over the line and win the premiership for you anyway?
Question. Yeah, it's a great question. I sat as emergency in the 1993 grand final, and I had an unbelievable reserves final series. I always tended to go right come finals in the big games, and but I didn't get selected that day. But 94, we had a wonderful year, and you're right. Like, we're on top of the ladder with a week to go, and we lost to Essendon, so we finished second on the ladder. We thrashed West Coast 2 weeks before that by at least 10, maybe 11 goals. I can't remember. We played in Princes Park, who then went on to win the grand final. So the final series then was first play 8th, second play 7th, and so on. And so we had Melbourne, who was 7th on the ladder, and we played all right in the first half, and then the second half faded out and they beat us. And then we came up against Geelong, who had, I think, 4 of their elite players out of their top 10 missing on that day. And we're like, oh, well, this is going to be interesting. And they just annihilated us. So we were concerned. There was talks that possibly Parker was going to get sacked and maybe our fitness coach, Peter Schockman. But I think it was Greg Williams that really stood up to the club and said, no, just leave him there. And that next pre-season, we invited down a sports psychologist. His name was Anthony Stewart, who worked with me in 1994 after I got dropped halfway through the year. And, he told me these words, I can, or will you just watch me? And he said, you've got to highlight them in your diary every single day. And so he had such great success with me. The club then employed him the next year. And he said to David Parkin, you've got wonderful leaders at this football club. Why don't you hand over the realm a little bit to them and give them a little bit more ownership? Now, I know at the pre-season camp, we sat there, midfielders, forwards and defence, and we all came up with this game plan that was very similar to David Parkin's game plan. And I don't know if that was the reason why we played so good that year. I don't know. I don't think our pre-season was great as far as I remember, but come during the season, we only lost 2 games to the 2 bottom teams, and don't ask me how. It was like, we were like in the meeting room. We're like, what has happened these last 2 weeks? It was like, oh my goodness, what has happened at this football club? And then we were able to turn it around. And maybe we had the most 95 was, I'll always say, the greatest year of my life, because depending on how you're playing and if the team's winning is how you feel throughout the year. And I mean, we were winning every week, and we were there, the most powerful football club in the competition. So you can imagine how wonderful life was back then. And so then, we went on to win. So the catalyst, I don't know, there was some aging superstars we had. We knew the window was closing. Was that the thing? I'm not sure. We got a couple of other players in Matty Clappe and Matthew Hogg and Dean Rice, into our team. And Camporelli came as well. And those guys were unbelievable. Brad Pearce stood up that year as well. And us younger players improved, and all together combined, we were just a phenomenal team.
Oh, love the insight, Kuda. That's absolutely brilliant. And so Ian asked a similar question to this to David Rees-Jones the other day. So I guess thinking about the current group, something that gets spoken about a lot is like the mentality and being able to step up in like the biggest moments, which we saw last season. So I mean, thinking back to you and that 95 kind of era, what do you think were the things that helped build that mentality and obviously the culture?
It's another great question. Because I remember going to the last game last year, Carlton versus Collingwood, and the question was asked to me, we should have won or whatever. And I said, now it comes down to we find out what sort of team we do have. And this is the occasions that when you've got to win, can they stand up? That tells you whether they're a good team or not. Not to say that they can't perform this year, but obviously last year they weren't quite ready for it. I thought they were, but they weren't, and to lose by 1 point. But I know myself, I was a mad Collingwood supporter growing up, and my brother was mad Carlton, and every year he'd be like cheering and I'd cry, and I was like, what is it about this Carlton Football Club, But I didn't really understand until I walked in for the first time at the end of 1990, as I walked through the corridors, and mate, there was just incredible leadership. There was premiership plays. There was standards that, like, if you wanted to play, that was it. But John Elliott instilled into us is that if you didn't win a premiership at this football club, you will not be remembered, basically. So I felt the pressure of that early on. And the culture was just incredible as well. I'll always say John Elliott was the greatest president by far. He created a family environment that I look forward to. I was proud to wear that navy blue jumper. It was an honour to say that I represent the Carlton Football Club. And I looked around and, your Tommy Alvarez, Sticks was the greatest leader. They say captain of all time of that football club, which I'll never deny. But he had 13 or 14 lieutenants around him that could, teach us young dudes what we need to do if we want to play senior footy with them. And that's what we did. So they pushed us. We trained hard. We played hard. We had plenty of drinking. The culture was like that. But on the day when it came to perform, we all gave our 100%.
Yeah, and I guess sort of like somewhat on that, in the latter stages of your career, you became captain of the Carlton Footy Club. I guess, what did that kind of mean to you, obviously being at the club your sort of whole career and from such a young age? And then what were kind of the things that you're really that last premiership player, one of the last legends still in that squad? What were the kind of things that you were trying to pass on, whether it was those standards onto that next group to try and keep that kind of Carlton culture going the best you could?
It was an unbelievable honour for me. I was thinking then when they asked me to be captain, Dennis Pagan, that I was looking back and I'm thinking, wow, I walked in this football club when I was 14 and here I am at age 31 being asked to be captain of the football club, and I was never going to say no. I never expected it because I was getting a little bit older, but it was a wonderful honour for me. So it was a thrill. It was just the culture got unravelled when John Elliott left and we got a new regime into the club, and it felt like almost overnight that everything of the past had disappeared and it was this new place that wasn't like what it had been previous. And me as an aging player at that football club, all I wanted to do was play finals footy. But unfortunately, with everything that was going on at the club, it was never going to happen. And it really did go backwards very, very quickly. And we're still trying to pick up the pieces now, I think, with everything going on. So we lost a lot of great players when the new regime came in, a lot of great players and had to get in a lot of players from other football clubs. And it just wasn't the same. It was never going to be the same. And it was a different feel. And the performance basically, I guess summed it all up. We just didn't win enough and not even close to winning enough. We were down the bottom so often for so many years. It was very sad to see it occur. So it was hard for me. I just did the very best that I could. In here, in my mind, I remember what it was like in the good days, and then I remember, unfortunately, the bad times as well. And so no matter what I was going to do, I had my hands tied. All I did was just try to do the very best that I could, hoping, fingers crossed, that we could have played finals in those years that I was captain. Unfortunately, we didn't.
Yeah, I think as negative maybe as that period was, I know for like myself, and I'll speak for myself and maybe Lockie here as well, I know those are some of the real pivotal sort of moments for us young fans growing up, seeing you guys run out there. And even though the results weren't there, I think that there's still some amazing memories of that time. Princes Park as well was still just kicking about in those latter stages. And as good as they weren't on field, I know that it was still such a good time to be a fan, because those are the times that I now cherish, those childhood moments, seeing you guys run out there. So I just wanted to add that little bit in there, because as negative as it is, I think there's still some good positivity to hopefully bring out of that anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, you missed the heydays, though. So when I was a Mad Collingwood supporter, I'm sure you guys would have loved to have been around then. And anyone that was there throughout the 90s sitting at Princes Park will always tell you that was some of their greatest memories of all time, when we were kicking down the Heatley stand and we'd kick 10 goals in the third quarter, and then the game would be over and everyone would be celebrating. You can never surpass that. I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for the current day players, because I walked in at an end of an era, really, because I experienced the last 12 years of this incredible culture that went for many decades, and some of the characters before us. And it was just an amazing place. And you always talk about, the mosquito fleet and some of the stories of the old days of what occurred. And when I walked in, I'm hearing all these stories and just you laugh about it, how wonderful the place was, that you can go there and look forward to it, play up and do whatever, all in fun, nothing, to cause any trouble to anyone. But then, of course, go out and succeed and win premierships and that too. So the old fellas led the way for us, and I got that last little glimpse of it. So, as I'm sure it was wonderful for you guys, but you'll probably never understand the enormity of how powerful that football club was unless you were there at that time.
Yeah. Well, we were both born in early 96, so shout out to our parents for not letting us grace that period. Little shout out to them.
That's right.
But I'd love to take us to just the present day now. And I mean, we touched on it with, you said that you attended round 23 last year, but just interested to hear about what your relationship to football and Carlton is in 2023. You plan to get to more matches this year? How are you feeling about it all?
Yeah, it's funny. When I retired, like I had my son, my oldest boy, Jamie, hated footy. My daughter hated footy. My wife didn't really like it too much. So I was a little bit on my own. But then I had my third child, Lucas, and he's a mad Carlton supporter. So we try to get to as many games as we possibly can. I brought him down to an open day about 3 weeks ago, just before school started for him. And I went there with one of my ex-teammates, Anthony Koutoufides, who brought his daughter there as well, and is a wonderful guy, Franchina. So, but we'll get to as many games as we possibly can. I love the club. I just want them to succeed. I'm sick of them not playing finals footy. I want to go and watch a finals game with my son and have everlasting memories and see the boys play. And I believe they've got the talent out there now. And I watched them training that day, and geez, they looked extremely fit. But I can say that about every other club, I'm sure, if I went there to watch them. But I'm hoping for some big things from the players without putting pressure on them. But I'd love to see them play 1 or 2 or 3, finals games. Yeah. And you know what? You just never know when you get to finals, and if you've got the confidence and the belief and you haven't got as many injuries as some of the other teams, that you never know how far you can go, because at their best, I believe they're equal to anyone else in the comp. Maybe Geelong was definitely the standout last year, but any other team that they played, they had their opportunities.
Who's Lucas's favourite
player?
Yeah,
I think he loves them all. I mean, the Crippen, the Curnow that we all love, and Mackay and all that. But I think at the moment, last I heard, it was Adam Sard. So I think he loves Sardi, running off the half back there, who grew up next door to Ange, and I was literally maybe 200 metres away from him. And I remember him as a young kid. He had these freakish skills and ability, as we had a kick with him once, but Ange spent a lot of time with him too. So great player.
Oh, I love it. Okay, well, thanks, Kouta. We'll wrap it up with this last one. We're 27 days from the season as we record. So keen to hear what are you looking forward to this season, and how do you reckon we're going to go?
Yeah, no, I hope that they make finals footy. We've been waiting a long time, and I just feel like the club, being down there, it feels like it's a better environment, and it feels like everyone's really happy down there, and they seem to be training hard, getting back to training before they're expected to be there. So there's some great leaders down there. Cripper leads the boys so well. I mean, he won the Brownlow medal last year, but whether he won it or not, I think his love and passion for the football club and the way that he leads is really what we need. And he's been, 10 out of 10, in my opinion, in that sort of sense. And, so hopefully the boys play finals footy. I really do want them to experience the real Carlton Football Club. And I feel like when we start playing finals footy, if we can sneak a premiership here and there, the entire competition will see how incredible this football club is.
Oh, could not agree with you more, Kouta. Absolutely love it. As I said at the top, such an honour to chat with you. You meant so much to us growing up as young Carlton supporters. So really appreciate you taking the time for us. Thanks very much, boys, and all the very best. Legend. Thank you. And we'll be linking to Koutoufides in the show notes and description, of course. And thanks again, Kouta. We'll see you guys next time. Anytime. See you, boys. See ya.